Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Kate Boyd and I'm here to help you take your piano playing to the next level. This video is about a common issue when it comes to practicing the piano: making too many mistakes. I'm going to give you some actionable strategies that you can hopefully apply to your own practice at the piano. But before we get started, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more tips on playing the piano. First things first, in order to set yourself up to not make tons of mistakes in your playing, you're gonna need to get to know the piece you're playing really, really well. It's important to have a clear mental picture of what you're trying to accomplish, so start by listening to several different performances of the piece while following along in the score. In addition to listening to the piece a bunch of times, play the piece all the way through from beginning to end. I call this bashing through the piece, and it's very satisfying, I must say. What that will do is it will give you an overview of the piece, and it'll also give you a tactile feel for where the hardest parts are going to be and where you're going to want to focus your energies when you actually start learning the piece. That's going to be so much more effective than just starting at the beginning without any sense of how the piece goes and then learning it note by note from the very first measure. Think of how a painter makes a rough sketch of the whole painting before they start filling it in with color. They don't start putting the paint on at one corner of the canvas and then gradually work their way across the painting, making one fully formed image at a time. You also, as a musician, want to have the rough sketch of the whole piece in your mind before you start learning it. Now, when you practice and you want to stop making a lot of mistakes, it's essential to establish the habit of fixing your mistake as soon as it happens. When you're practicing, it's easy to kind of go on autopilot and make mistakes without even realizing it. There's a lot going on. You're seeing the notes, you're seeing your hands on the keyboard, you're feeling your hands on the keyboard, and then of course there's the sound that you're listening to. And that's why it's easy when you're in the practice room to fall into the trap of making mistakes but not fixing them right away. I'm going to show you how to identify and fix a mistake in your own practice. I'm going to demonstrate from Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata, Opus 13, and I'm going to use the last movement. I've put a link to the score in the description below this video so you can download it and follow along yourself. The first thing I'm going to do is show you what not to do when you make a mistake. I'm going to start at the beginning. So I kind of made a mistake right here in the third and fourth measures. I messed up the left hand and I messed up the right hand. What not to do is just to start at the beginning again and then make the same mistake, then start over. So I keep making the same mistake, but I keep starting at the beginning. So what will happen if you do that is you will get very, very good at playing the beginning part, and the part where you actually made the mistake, you'll just keep making the mistake. So now I'll show you the way to fix a mistake. It's basically a four-step process to eliminate mistakes when you practice. The first step, which is surprisingly tricky, is to identify the mistake when you make it and not just keep going. The second step is to not only identify that you made a mistake, but to isolate the exact spot that you made the mistake. Then the third step is to drill and fix the mistake, playing it correctly several times in a row until it feels secure. And then the fourth step is to put it back into context and continue. So I'm going to show you those four steps. Start at the beginning. Okay, I made a mistake specifically here, and I made it in both hands. I made a mistake. That's the first step, is I stopped and I noticed where it was. The second step now is to identify I made a mistake in the left hand on those two notes and in the right hand right there. Now, the third step is to drill it. Since I made a mistake in both hands, I'm going to drill both hands. I'm going to start right at the place where I made the mistake, and I'm going to go slowly. Okay, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that a few times. And my fingering is good. I'm going to write that in to make sure that I'm secure on that. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now the right hand, I made a mistake right there. So that looks like... I went to a C sharp. I went down too far. Okay, so I'm doing that a few times. Notice that in each hand, I'm practicing it until I can play it quickly and accurately in the hand when I play it separately. I'm not just playing both hands slowly. So each hand I can play quickly. Right hand. Okay, that feels pretty secure. I'm drilling it a few times. It can also be helpful to vary the articulation just to give your fingers a different way of playing it. I'll do that a couple times. Left hand. I can try it hands together slowly now. Okay. Really feeling how that... Okay, I'm going to try right hand a staccato, left hand legato. Again. Left hand staccato, right hand legato. Hands together a little faster, smooth. Now, why am I varying the articulation? That's kind of a topic for another video, but just to say that when you vary the way that you play it, you then are starting to create a situation where you have a more robust arsenal that you're playing with. So you're not just like, okay, I can only play it one specific way and otherwise it doesn't work for me. So I'm building in a few different ways to feel it in my fingers, even though of course in context I will play it legato as the composer indicated. Okay, that's starting to feel better. Okay, now the next step is to put it in context. Okay, I'm going to do that first of all just by starting at the beginning of the measure right there. And I'm going to start. I'm going to do that a few times. Okay, again. Okay, I'm going to do it quietly. Do it a little faster. I'm going to do staccato. Okay, feels more robust now. I'm going to start at the beginning. This is the final step. I'm going to start at the beginning and put it into context and continue. So I fixed that, and if I were continuing to practice, I would then continue in the piece until I made the next mistake, and then I would follow the same process again. Even if you're incredibly diligent about identifying and trying to fix mistakes in context, sometimes you might find that there's a spot or passage that you just can't seem to play no matter how many times you repeat it. And so it's also important when you're trying to break the habit of making lots of mistakes in your practice to figure out what you need to change technically in order to avoid making the same mistake again. You need to get really granular here. Really analyze your physical movement at the piano. Did you overshoot or undershoot a note? Did you go too far to the left or too far to the right? Do you need to raise your wrist as you pass the thumb under? Do you need to apply a physical motion like rotation or wrist circles? Do you need to pivot over a finger? Do you need to adjust your fingering or hand position? Once you identify the issue, focus on correcting that in your practice. I'm going to show you what I mean in an example here. If you think from moment to moment about the movements you're going to make and the choreography you can use to get from one note to the next, that will also help you make fewer mistakes because then you will be making appropriate movements. So I'm looking here at measure 18, which goes like this, and then 19 is... So you can hear I made a couple of mistakes. I didn't hit the C. And then the B flat was a little not quite accurate either. What I can see when I look at the music is that it goes back and forth between notes. It goes up and down. So that to me, that tells me that I should use rotation to get from one note to the next. And that is this motion in the hand, so I can apply that right away. And then to come down, I'm going to do a wrist circle which helps position my fingers. I'm doing 2 circles. So rotation here, wrist circle, and then drop and hoist. All right, so now I have a choreography. I can think exactly how I'm going to play that. I'm going to go on. There's a drop, and now rotation, rotation, and then I come around as I play the scale. So when you're looking at your music, when you're actually seeing how the notes relate to one another, use choreography, use the motions that you know how to make to get from one note to the next, and let that help you eliminate your mistakes as you figure out how to move more naturally from one place to another. At its heart, effective practice keeps coming back to the same principle. It's all about challenging yourself, but not too much. The principle of deliberate practice suggests finding the right level of challenge where you actually have some discomfort. If something is too easy, it won't be challenging enough to actually improve your skills. But on the other hand, if it's too hard, it'll be impossible to play and your brain actually won't be able to process all of the incoming information effectively. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but being in the zone of mild discomfort is where you'll be most likely to improve. Practically, this means that you'll accomplish more in your practice session if you focus on the areas where you struggle instead of the places that you already play well. Remember, effective learning is likely to bring with it a certain amount of mental discomfort, but it should always be physically possible and lead to ease when you figure out your physical challenges. So don't be afraid to challenge yourself, but be mindful of finding the right level of challenge in order to improve your skills. Because you're watching this video, I know that you're probably someone who's looking to improve your skills at the piano. It's natural to want to avoid mistakes. But even with the best intentions, it's easy to get stuck in bad habits. One habit that can hold you back is looking at your hands to find the notes while you're playing. I made a video where I covered some simple yet effective techniques to help you stop looking down at your hands when you play the piano. So go ahead and click on that next video to continue. I'll see you there, and happy practicing.